Welcome to the fifth and final day of the ninth annual Justice on Trial Film Festival. The Justice on Trial Film Festival was established to showcase films that speak to the challenges of people caught up in the judicial system and the power of community solutions. The films we have slated for you today do just that. Before I continue, I would like to thank our generous donors and partner organizations for their support. Donors and partner organizations include Loyola Marymount University, the formerly incarcerated Convicted People and Families Movement, or FICPFM, Art for Justice Fund, a sponsored project of Rockefeller Philanthropy Advisors, Alliance for Safety and Justice, California's for Safety and Justice, Dr. Bill Resnick, Michael J. Stubbs, and Essence of Light. I'd also like to thank those of you who are at home who are watching live. Many of you have already donated, and you can still do so by texting Freedom Work to 44321. Again, that is texting as one word, Freedom Work, to the number 44321. We appreciate your support and faith in our mission. Tonight's schedule consists of two important films, The Girl Inside by Kate Bryan of One Girl Revolution, and Testify, The Fight to Reunite, a project of a new way of life. After the last film has played at approximately 3:42 p.m. Pacific time, we will begin our panel conversation with Kate Bryan of One Girl Revolution and Andy Mazingo, Antoinette Carter, and Stephanie Jeffcoat of A New Way of Life and Testify, The Fight to Reunite. This panel will be moderated by Susan Burton, founder and president of A New Way of Life. We hope you will join us for this conversation as you will have the opportunity to participate live via the chat window on this page. We'll be starting the film shortly. Please be sure to scroll down the website and click on the Films tab right below this window, as the films will start in just a few minutes or just a few moments. After the films have all finished, please remember to click back on the Opening Remarks panel tab to participate in the conversation. Thank you for joining us.
So good afternoon, everyone. It is the two films were so powerful, and I'd like to. Uh, um, my name is Susan Burton. I'm the founder of A New Way of Life, and I am, I guess, one of the originators of the film festival. I'd like to begin by asking about the girl inside. Um, is our is our person is Kate on the live stream?
She's joining right now. Just give me 1 second.
Okay. The films were so powerful. Every time I watch them, I end up with like a tear in my eye, um, just watching. So, okay, I think Kate is with us now. Yeah, hi, Kate.
Hi,
I was
Susan.
I wanted to begin the panel with asking you a question about the girl inside, and I want to know, how did you come about making it? Cook County Jail is one of the largest jails in the nation. Um, it is it is huge when you walk through the gates and you look all around you. And I wanted to ask, how did you begin to make the girl inside? Uh, yes.
Yeah, great question. It really was a couple years in the making, Susan. As you know, it takes so much work to get to cross all the red tape, to actually get inside and to be able to take a film crew inside is even more so than just me going in as an individual. So I had gotten connected with Dr. Laura Biaggi, the professor that you see in the film. And we just started dreaming up this idea. What if you could take a film crew in? What if you could interview some of her students, some of her former students about their lives, and not talking about what they did to end up in Cook County, but who they are as people, and tell us stories about when you were children. And you see all of that come alive in the film. And so it took almost a year of back and forth with Cook County Jail, and I'm so grateful that they finally gave us clearance to go inside. And when we walked in that day, we didn't even know who was going to be in the room. So we knew that there were going to be a couple of women, but we weren't exactly sure who would be in the room and what their interactions with us would be. You know, would they be totally closed off and not want to talk at all? Or would they want to share their hearts? And one thing that was so beautiful, and you see in the beginning when we're sitting in the circle, how we started talking about their lives. And we started with the word girl, because One Girl Revolution is the organization that I run. And they started sharing stories about when they were little girls and no one told them that they mattered and no one told them that they could do anything that they wanted or that they had a purpose, and how differently their lives would have looked if somebody had reminded them of that little girl. And it was through this class that they were reminded of the little girl that they were created to be, of the woman that they were created to be. So yeah, to answer your question, it was a couple year process, probably 2 years in the making. And then finally, when it happened, thankfully it happened right before COVID hit, because I don't think we would be able to do that documentary nowadays with everything with masks and all the different mandates that are going on. But I'm so grateful for that opportunity and just grateful to share the film with everybody who's watching. So thank you for showing it.
Yeah, that was my question. My next question is, how did COVID affect One Girl Revolution? I know it kind of turned us all upside down. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think, well, we had already filmed, thankfully we had already filmed The Girl Inside. So I kind of already had that in the works. But when COVID hit, I think like all of us, I started thinking about what's One Girl Revolution's role in this? What am I meant to do? How can I help people? How can I elevate the voices of the people that we all knew that were sacrificing their lives, whether it be in the healthcare field or in all the different avenues that people were still going out into the world to help those who were suffering. And so One Girl, I just kind of turned a corner and it was like, how can I elevate these stories, but also encourage people in their everyday lives. And that's really the heart of what One Girl Revolution is how can we all make a difference? We were all created for a purpose, reminding people of that we all have a role in this world and that we can make a difference, not necessarily even through the big things, right? Like we don't have to start an organization or a 501c3 or do something on TV. You know, we don't have to be on TV necessarily or make a film or a documentary to make a difference in the world. Sometimes it's the smallest little thing. So we started by doing 15 ways to make a difference during COVID. And then we started highlighting the stories of women that were feeding those in need during the pandemic. One girl, Caitlin Cullen, shout out to her in Milwaukee. She ended up feeding 115,000 people. She had a restaurant and she just started, switch gears, wasn't serving customers anymore and said, I'm going to serve people that really need food. So no questions asked. Come to the restaurant and I'll have a meal for you. And throughout the past year and a half, she had 115,000 meals. So, and a little spoiler alert for everybody, that's going to be our second documentary. So The Girl Inside is just one of a series, and we're going to have a documentary featuring Caitlin Cullen next. So I still feel like I'm kind of pivoting with One Girl Revolution. And I think everybody who's on this panel, we're still kind of pivoting and trying to figure out what our world looks like from now on with the pandemic.
Yes. Yeah, from now on, I don't think we're gonna see this thing go away for quite some time, and we're just gonna have to learn to work, live, play, and be safe at the same time. Thanks, Kate.
Thank you.
Stephanie, I want to turn to you because I've watched you for a couple of years now. And it's been an honor and a privilege to watch you. This is what I live for. Could you tell us about what happened with your child? Yeah, could you just tell us what happened with your child? And I want to also remind the listeners, if they have a question, to place it in the chat. But you went to jail and you lost your child. Could you tell us how long that took and what happened and what's happening now?
So for those of you who watch Testify, I have 4 children, but my youngest child, which is Harmony, she's 5 years old. And during my time of incarceration, which I was only there for 6.5 months, she was adopted out. And that took place in January 2018. So for the last 3 years, I have been fighting to have just some answers, some answers from the courts, some answers as to what happened. Like, how do you proceed with the adoption that quickly? And why was I never contacted nor notified that the adoption was even taking place? So it's been a struggle, it's been a fight, just trying to reconnect, trying to have some clarity to the situation. And it's a fight that I'm still dealing with at this moment.
So I know you got some good news the other day. You didn't see me, but I went outside and a tear fell from my eye, and it's still just welling up right now with some of the news about the breakthrough you've had in court, the breakthrough you've had in this process. And Talitha LaFloria, our professor in the film, she said there was a 1522 rule, but you didn't get 1522. Your daughter was gone within a few months of your incarceration.
Yes. So that 1522 rule typically applies when the child is in foster care for 15 out of the previous 22 months. When my daughter was adopted out, she was only 18 months old. So she hadn't even been alive for 22 months. And so what they did was a fast track adoption. Because she was a newborn, when the child's a newborn, your rights get terminated a lot quicker versus them being 3 years of age or older. And so that is what happened with my daughter.
Well, we hope you get to hold your baby, hold her hand, play with her in the park and what have you, and we're supporting you in that.
Thank
So,
you.
Andy is a ORIC Racial Justice Fellow that is came to create a family reunification department within A New Way of Life. And I can't tell you how happy and grateful we are to have her at A New Way of Life, and how needed this family reunification advocacy legal department is for incarcerated, formerly incarcerated, both women and men. Andy, I'd like you to talk about what you're seeing and how our child welfare cases even started.
Yeah, thank you, Susan. And I'm so glad to be here fighting this fight with you, and with Stephanie and everyone. So child welfare cases originate from tips or police referrals. Either way, a social worker will investigate to determine whether the tip is substantiated. The social worker and their supervisor can decide to detain a child without a judge or court ever getting involved. So it's based on their discretion alone. So perhaps it's unsurprising to those listening that time and again for Black and Latinx families, involuntary family separation can be the result of nothing more than social worker bias. Bias plays a big role in the child welfare cases arising from incarceration too. Families impacted by incarceration, as many of us know, are disproportionately Black and Latinx individuals. The children of incarcerated parents oftentimes end up being involved in the child welfare system. And so for families impacted by incarceration, child welfare involvement can arise from a parent not having the social support necessary to arrange for the care of their children, or it can arise from a police officer not trusting the parent to make arrangements for the care of their children and referring the case to a child welfare agency, running the risk of both the police officer and then the social worker being informed by bias. And so this partially explains why in 2020 in Los Angeles County, 3/4 of the children removed from their families were Latinx or Black, and Black children were 5 times more likely to become ensnared in the child welfare system than white children.
Thank you, Andy. It's daunting. I've been here at A New Way of Life for over 20 years, and I've watched the hard and horrific struggle for mothers to be able to reunite. And I think back to the beginning of the day-to-day, to the girl inside. Nobody stops to actually ask. Nobody wants to deal with. Nobody wants to see the humanity of people from a little girl. But we're raising up the humanity, and we're fighting alongside people to repair the harms of people not listening, people not seeing, people not hearing, and people not honoring them as women, as people who are wanting to have a full and happy life. So Antoinette is my daughter, everyone. And Antoinette suffered a lot because I was caught up in a cycle of incarceration. And Antoinette, you have a memory, like photographic memory, and you don't forget anything.
Nope.
Could you talk about what it was like as a little girl with your mom being incarcerated? What type of emotional effect that had on you, and also what you did to take on your own quest to heal the harms of separation?
I think as a little girl, I felt ostracized. I felt alone and afraid, because I didn't necessarily see this happening to my peers until probably high school. So I felt, I definitely felt like I couldn't talk to anyone in authority. It was something that I hid from school officials in every school that I was in, and didn't. I learned not to talk about it. So I think that I learned to compartmentalize and hold a lot of it in as a child. But I think that it made kind of like a blind rage for me. I think as I have gotten older, and watching you go through the process of bringing other women with you through your travel in this process, I have definitely understood that I wasn't alone in this process, and then began to evaluate just how many of us that it did affect. And so for me, as I watched you heal, I needed to understand how I was going to heal and the effects of the incarceration on the child as the child grows up. Understanding that we are part of that community, and helping our parents heal definitely helps us heal, is what I would say.
Thank you. So we have a question from the audience. Joshua asks, what is the intended effect of pairing these two films? Perhaps the panelists can talk about the thematic connection between the two films. You're shaking your head, Andy. I'm going to give it to you. Yeah. You're on mute. Okay. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Thank you. I mean, for me, one of the big, and for our legal practice, one of the messages that we'd really like to get out there is to raise awareness that child welfare involvement is not an indicator of parental unfitness. More likely, it's an indicator of race or criminal justice involvement. And to kind of make that connection, to see that just like mass incarceration, child welfare has roots in these historical practices all the way back to slavery that have negatively impacted certain categories of individuals, Black individuals. And this is something that we all need to be accountable for.
Susan, if I can add to that, just thinking about The Girl Inside and I Testify, and watching both of them side by side together was so powerful to me, and seeing these women's voices. And one thing that I was thinking about so much throughout The Girl Inside process really was this forgotten about population. And there are so many different groups of people that we could talk about when you say forgotten about population. Indigenous women, there's this genocide of murdered and missing Indigenous women. But I think the incarcerated population, we're so quick to just forget about them. Like, oh, lock somebody up, forget about them. We don't recognize their humanity. And women in particular, women are the fastest growing population within jail and prison. Why aren't we talking about that? 60% of women who are incarcerated have children. And so I think it's so beautiful what you're doing with A New Way of Life. We need to build community around these women. We need to recognize their humanity and also build community between mothers and their babies. And I see what you're doing at A New Way of Life to do that. Motherhood Beyond Bars in Georgia is doing something, where they're building community between pregnant women, and then once they get out of jail and prison, they're building community between those babies and the mamas. And we need to be talking about that and finding solutions in the culture. And I think we all have a responsibility, no matter who you are, we all have a responsibility to be the voices of those who have no voice right now. And I think the incarcerated population is one of those groups of people that we have a responsibility on the outside to speak up for these people. And then also when they get out, we have a responsibility to support them in the communities, whether it be through jobs, housing, community, and just support them. We all can play a role in that.
Yeah, you're so right. And it it just fills my heart, my soul, my spirit to watch the women that I work with get an opportunity, and how they grab that, flimsy, that they said the flimsy reed turned out to be the mighty hand of God, but how they take that flimsy reed and just pull themselves up and stand. It's it's something beautiful to see. So we have another question, and maybe Stephanie, you and Kate can respond to this. The question is, how has storytelling through films like these helped create change for women affected by incarceration? Do you have any specific stories of the positive impacts of the girl inside or testify? So I'm going to ask you, Stephanie, what is it like? What happens for you when you have the ability to have a platform that honors you and your story?
Thank you, Susan. I could definitely speak to that, being that I was once the girl inside and am now out here testifying. For me, it's just bringing awareness. Like, this issue is not just happening here in California, in Los Angeles, in Orange County. This is happening nationwide. And there's so many mothers, so many parents that are going through this. And I think the more that we tell our stories, the more that we bring awareness to it, the more that people will want to get involved to actually help to create these changes that we need in order to help keep families together. So being able to have this platform, for me, it's also a form of healing. Like, the more that I'm able to just talk about it and not feel, bad about the situation that happened, but knowing that it happened in order for me to be where I'm at today, is what allows me to want to continue to tell my story and to encourage others so that they know that they're not alone and that they have a support system, a network of people who are here that they can turn to for help.
So, Kate, are there any positive impacts from the girl inside that you saw? That you experienced?
Yeah, so many. And I think we're still seeing that. And I know that you can see that even through I Testify. I will tell you that numerous women in featured in The Girl Inside are now out, which is a huge thing to me. And I know that they're working to get their lives back on track and be reunified with their kids and all the different stories, those different elements. But I think that storytelling is such a powerful way to change culture and change the world. And women are the most resilient beings. We know that. They're so resilient, and you hear those stories every single day. And I know that that's what I saw with The Girl Inside, the women in The Girl Inside. But as I say that women are so resilient, women have the power. They have this particular power to break the cycle, right? To break their cycle, but then also for their children and their children's children and generations to come. And I was so moved watching The Girl Inside and I Testify tonight and all the other films that you featured. And that was like a theme that I just kept thinking as I was watching these different films. Not to put aside anybody else, but I just see the power of women to raise up a nation. And we're seeing that in our everyday lives too. I think it's so powerful that women are standing together and supporting their sisters, and we're building community. And education too. Like, I will say, one thing that I learned through The Girl Inside is that education lowers the recidivism rate by like 43% in just one class. So even the women that were featured in The Girl Inside, they took one class, and how much it changed their lives. They got college credit for it. It gave them purpose. It reminded them of the person that they were created to be, and they stopped defining themselves by a mistake or something that we did. We all have stuff, we all have stuff in our past. If we went through our, what we did when we were a 19-year-old. I had a friend say that to me recently. When you were 19, if you wrote down all the different things you did, we're all the same. We all have done things. And sometimes you're just in the wrong place at the wrong time, or there's some other situation, whether it be a boyfriend. We know that with women, like, a lot of times there's some exterior motive or some exterior situation, whether it be a boyfriend or husband or partner or kids, they're just trying to feed their kids. And so I just think that storytelling is so powerful because not only does it open people's eyes up to what we don't often see in our daily lives, and that is, what's happening within jail and prison and revealing individuals, revealing the humanity of these individuals. But it also encourages other people to say, hey, me too, or I experienced that, or when I went through this, this is what helped me. And I think there's something that we really need to recognize in this world, a special power that women have to do that.
Yeah. Thank you. And Stephanie, you made the statement that telling your story is healing. There's this thing about shame that runs through our society, through cultures, and dispelling the shame by standing up and being able to tell a story, tell your story, tell your life experience, and share it with others, to share your joys, to share your hurts, to share your happy, to share your sad, and create community around that. If there's something that's just really, really healing about that. And Antoinette, you talked about, not having the ability to talk about and being to the point of, just holding rage. What does it mean for you as a child of incarcerated parents to be able to have the ability to talk about and talk up for other children of incarcerated parents, and for parents who were incarcerated to hear you? What does that mean for you? Has it helped? Has it harmed? What has it done for you?
Oh, it has made me a whole new different person. Coming from the perspective of corporate America, I think having had the platform in my own job, and working in HR in a Fortune 500 company, and having my peers, supervisors, executives know my story and know that with all that I've been through, with all that I've seen, with all that I've had to endure, that I still was able to maintain a job, a career for 33 years with the same company, and that they need to understand that corporate America has done society a disservice with discounting people with records, people with felonies, and so on and so forth. And so for me, having, an executive email me and say, this is what my niece went through, and the shame that my family went through trying to figure out basically how to get rid of it, how to get rid of that person, how to, move them away because they brought the pain to the family, instead of understanding this is where they need to step in as the village and help that person and get that person to the next platform of where they need to be. And so it's important for me, from not only being a child of a formerly incarcerated parent, but also from living in corporate America more than half of my life, understanding how those two should have been able to marry and not be these two divisive engines that have been floating around, because I think that they now are more understanding of the roles that they played. So I feel so empowered today, that the storytelling, the testify, and the other avenues are getting the exposure that they need to get to help people understand they're not the only ones going through this, and helping other people understand the power that they need to possess to help those that are incarcerated and formerly incarcerated. I'm really tired of someone going to jail, going to prison, doing their time, and coming home and still not being able to live their lives. We've had enough of that.
So don't get too tired now, because you just got a shout out from the chat said, "Love your story, Antoinette. You are a hero." Yeah.
I was born of a shero, so I'm just paying it forward.
Oh, it's in the bloodline.
It's in the
Okay.
bloodline.
So, Andy, there's a question. What would be most helpful or impactful action that people in the public could take to help these incarcerated women the most? And you know, your law firm took a bold step here and sent you, and you they better get out your way, because you fire. You are fired. That's what we say in the community. You are fired, you know. So maybe you can ask that question. What would be most impactful? And I don't think there's a silver bullet. You know, there's big things, there's little things, there's humongous things, there's tiny things, there's all things that make up the whole. But maybe you could speak to your experience and your decision to come out of I don't know what you call it. I know you call Fortune 500 companies, but a Fortune 500 law firm, down to the community to work and fight with us on the front lines.
Yeah, thank you. I think it's, in terms of what can we do to help, I think it's so important that all of us put to use what we're best at. Take advantage of our skills. And so for me and for other ORIC lawyers who are also doing similar fellowships, that skill is fighting on behalf of our clients and championing their cause. And you know what I found is that it's providing a level of advocacy that clients may not have ever experienced before. So you know, I think that there's a lot of talent out there that could be put towards these really big problems, because these are difficult problems to solve, and you know, we all need to be working towards solving them.
So I have another question, Andy. Are there governmental barriers? Are there governmental barriers to help incarcerated women?
Yes,
I just need to say, all this stuff comes out of bad legislation, bad public policy, bad procedures, and from our hearts and minds. So this is what we're doing now, informing and transforming hearts and minds. So, Andy, if you want to respond to, are there governmental barriers?
Yes, it's a challenge, as you know, accessing incarcerated mothers. We've helped hundreds of women reunify with their children who are previously incarcerated, but we've yet to have access to currently incarcerated mothers. And that is very critical to our practice, because once a woman is incarcerated, she risks losing the bond that she has with her child, which can then negatively impact her ability to get custody of her child once she's released. Another thing is, incarcerated mothers might not get proper notice about what's going on in their child welfare cases, which is, you know, the very unfortunate circumstance that you heard about in the film. And so what really needs to happen is every single prison that has mothers there needs to be offering a family reunification clinic within the prison that not only meets with the women and makes a plan for how are you going to reunite with your children once you're released, but that also helps serve as a bridge between the incarcerated parent on the one hand and the children, the social worker, and, you know, the child welfare, their appointed attorney on the other hand. So this is a very critical step that we're working on right now, and it's something that we need to approach at the local, state, and even federal level.
Thank you, Andy. We have another shout out from the chat. This person says, I'd like to just say how wonderful I think all you women are and everyone else who's been affected by this system. And there's a big old y'all matter and inspire. Yes. So Stephanie, I guess you're rewriting your narrative. What do you see in the future for you? What are your goals for the future?
Yes, thank you for that, Susan. So my goals, like I said, this situation has definitely helped change the trajectory of the path that I was on. Because of my daughter being taken the way that she has, that's lit this fire in me to just want to make a change and to be able to do something different about it. So currently I am in the process of transferring to get my bachelor's degree in public administration. And from there, I will be continuing on to law school to become a dependency lawyer.
Uh-oh.
I want to be able to help parents who have had their children taken away by the system, because I, more than anyone, knows what that feels like to have your child taken. And so as much as the situation hurts, I see the good in it. And my goal is to be the best attorney that I can be to represent these parents and help them get their children back, and also to get my children back. I am separated from my youngest two children, but just this last week, my 9-year-old son contacted me saying that he wants to see me, and I haven't seen him in 7 years. So my goals are to continue to work on myself and to just be reunited with all of my kids.
I'd like to ask you, Stephanie, the Orrick Law Fellow, Andy Menzino, what is the effect she's had on you, and on you, period? Yeah.
So Andy joined us in January 2021. And I remember just coming back from, our Christmas break and, first day back in the office, and I got a phone call from Susan. She's like, guess what? I got this attorney. I want you to talk to her. And I remember just feeling like, wow, is this really going to happen? And from the moment that Andy has stepped on the scene and has joined, I have been reunited with my 12-year-old. So I was separated from all 4 of my kids, and now I have full custody of my 12-year-old daughter, Kamira. Andy, helped me file the paperwork for that and helped us be reunified. We also have made contact with the adoptive parents of the 5-year-old, and so we are, trying to just work that situation out. And so Andy has been there just every step of the way, helping in every way that she can. And it's because of her efforts and Miss Susan's, of course, that I've been able to even have the communication that I have with my children now, and that hope of being able to have contact with my 5-year-old.
I know that I've gotten such a relief from having Andy as a part and building out our legal reunification practice. So we have about we have a few more minutes here, and we got another shout out to Stephanie. Love your self-empowerment, your spirit, and strong determination to liberate others, Stephanie. Right on. That's to you from the chat, from the audience, Stephanie. I don't know who all is in our audience, but to have this desire to be more than what society sees you to be, and not ever able to get an opportunity or opening to realize yourself. So if people want to do anything, I would say be able to see people, the depth of their worth, their value, their humanity, their potential. And that's just the beginning. Just be able to see that in people. I would ask that. And then if you have the ability to extend the opportunity to people who are just languishing, trying to pull themselves up. I remember someone told me that I should have pulled myself up by my bootstraps, and I had to let them know that I didn't have any boots. So give a person a pair of boots or whatever it is that they might need. Kate, I want to ask you, what are your plans with One Girl Revolution for the future? Now, are you in Illinois?
I am in Detroit, Rock
Okay.
City.
Okay.
So we have a lot of things. First of all, I'll point everybody to the One Girl Revolution podcast. And Miss Susan, you are episode 127. So you're the latest episode of the podcast. So thank you so much for being on. And I use the podcast to highlight stories of everyday women that are changing the world in all different types of ways. So currently we're doing a series on incarceration and women. So we had Amy Ard of Motherhood Beyond Bars. Kim Boguki from the IF Project is coming on in a couple weeks. Sister Helen, many people may be familiar with her. I think she's going to close out the series. So a lot of different perspectives, but really focused on the different perspectives of incarceration and women. We have a second documentary coming out, as I mentioned before, of Caitlin Cullen, this amazing woman out of Milwaukee that has a restaurant and she hires people that no one else will hire. So formerly incarcerated, she'll hire pregnant women who oftentimes can't find employment, or kids that are being targeted by drug dealers or other people in the community that just need a shot, just need an opportunity, just need boots, as you said, Susan. So a lot of things on the horizon. And just to answer the question that you had asked earlier about what can people do, and I think even attending something like this is so powerful. So thank you, Susan, and everybody who's been involved in this amazing film festival, and everybody who's watching. Just watch these films, share them. I've seen so much power just in social media. Of course, you can donate to people. They can donate to A New Way of Life and other organizations that are helping and supporting people. But sometimes it's the little things that we just do on social media to share a post or follow that can make such a difference. So thank you so much.
Yeah. So Kate, where can people follow you?
They can follow One Girl. Well, they can check out the website, onegirlrevolution.com. So the number onegirlrevolution.com. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at One Girl Revo, One Girl REVO. And then we are on YouTube at One Girl Revolution. So they can watch The Girl Inside if they want to watch it again. It's on YouTube. And then we have a lot of other videos, other stories. Like I said, 127 episodes of the podcast. So they can subscribe to the podcast, the One Girl Revolution podcast, wherever you listen to podcasts.
Yeah. So, and I want to let people know that they can follow me at Susan Burton LA, and Susan Burton on Facebook. So we have another question. Since over 80% of women in prison are abused and traumatized, why do we incarcerate women? And I want to say, why do we incarcerate so many women? Hey, that's the $1 million question. We know that we have proven methods that are alternatives to incarceration that heals the pain, the trauma, but the response to abuse, women's response to abuse is criminalized and imprisoned, caged. So I don't know if anybody has a question of that. We live in a weird world, and it was weird before COVID. Anybody have a response to that?
I can speak briefly to that. So, like you've said in the past, Susan, I think that there's a problem of criminalizing trauma. Over the past quarter century, there's been a profound increase in the number of women who are involved in the criminal justice system, due in part to unique barriers to reentry to society and gendered pathways to recidivism. So not only are incarcerated women more likely to be disproportionately survivors of violence and trauma, they're also more likely to face futures of homelessness and unemployment. And they're also much more likely to be separated from minor children. And, you know, I know that being separated from a child can be profoundly traumatizing and can cause someone to fall deeper into addictions, just as an example. And so, you know, this is a huge problem, and what we need to be doing is increasing the amount of resources available to help women reenter into society.
So we have about 2 or 3 minutes left. Are there any closing comments or statements that anybody would like to make? I would first of all like to thank everyone who took the time to be with us today. This is our 9th annual film festival. The last 2 has been remote, has been, you know, via Zoom. I'm hoping next year that we can have one where we can come together and sit in the room, share some popcorn, and just look across and see everybody's face. Hopefully next year. Any closing thoughts?
I just would like to tell the parents that are going through it not to give up, not to lose hope, and that there are people out there, you know, to help. And a new way of life is one. So if anybody is going through family separation or who needs assistance, like to reach out to our team here, and we, you know, can definitely try and help.
So we have the Family Reunification Clinic that we offer free to the community that are struggling to get their child back into their custody, to support them to be accountable and to hold others accountable and usher them through the process. Any last words, Ms. Carter?
I'm proud of everybody in this process,
Oh, that means me too, huh? Woo, woo.
including you too.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. This is our very last film for the 9th annual Justice on Trial Film Festival. So happy you were able to join us, and we look forward to next year. If there are any follow-up questions, you can always go to anewwayoflife.org, and there's a place to send us a message at info@anewwayoflife.org. All right, see everyone later. Bye.